couldn't honestly tell you, Baz. Yeah, I didn't. I honestly thought that was going to come last week. After our first 4 games, we lost, 3 by a total of 10 points. Where the opposition scored, not the most they scored was Canberra, got 17. So we felt we were tracking pretty reasonable in that area, that sort of commitment type of area. And then obviously we had that 20-minute period against the Eagles where we didn't start so well. And then when we sort of improved in that area and got ourselves back into a winnable position until we made a couple of fundamental errors, I thought that we would have learned our lesson coming up to the coast. But, sometimes you lose, have a fair few sort of close losses, and it takes a bit of a capitulation to actually understand what works. And, from the first 5 minutes tonight, you could see that if Parramatta were to win, they were certainly going to earn it.
Do you think the criticism the guys have copped over the last week or so, that motivated them to come out and play like that?
I'm not sure, Rob. Well, obviously, the criticism that we all get at times, sometimes it can be maybe not deserved, but last week was deserved. I thought, was when you're in any sort of professional sport, and obviously when we had those turnovers against Gold Coast, and our reactions to them are what they are. That's I said to the players, we've all got to cop our heat here, because that's not what anyone wants to see. People want to see you competing hard and trying hard, and then I suppose the errors you still don't want to have them, but if you do, you still give yourself a shout. So whether that was a reaction from that, or whether the boys just realised what we were doing earlier in the year that worked, it was important that they understood that we started the year optimistic of being a better football club than we were last year. In our first 4 weeks, I thought we clearly showed that, and then that first 20 against Manly, and then last week sort of was a bit of a regress for us, I suppose. And with where we are as a club, it's about each year's about progressing, and from year 1 to 2 to 3, I thought we've clearly done that, and I thought we were tracking that way. And then we obviously got the performance we did, which was really disappointing. But to show today, what we can do against a good Parramatta side was, I'd be disappointed if I had to revisit a video session like I did the other day for a long time.
Shows you what your team's capable of too, doesn't it, Brownie?
It does,
I know
Crawl.
it's 7 rounds in, but you have to start at some stage, don't you?
You do,
get
Crawl.
cracking.
100%, and it's a tough football comp, and there's, I said after, I thought Canberra outplayed us a bit, but apart from that, we could have quite easily, after 4 weeks, been on 6 points quite easily with just an ounce of luck. We could have been on 0 if we had disastrous luck against Cronulla, and that's how tight the competition is. And we saw Brisbane win last night. Penrith just get beat again. We've seen Melbourne win, 3 games where their hooker's just been playing as, I think, probably better than he's ever played and the best player in the comp, But, the sides that know how to win, the Roosters, the Melbournes, that have been doing it for 20 years, they're where they sit because they actually understand how it's done. And, we're learning, I suppose, how to do it. And, there's Penrith and a young Brisbane side. There's a lot of our sides that are on 4 points now that, winning consistently hasn't been a part of our clubs for a fair period, I suppose. And, those tight games are so important, and there's not a lot between, I don't think there's a great deal between team 5 or 4 and team 11 and 12 and 13. Obviously, I think quite clearly there's a few teams that...
That's incredible, isn't it?
There's quite a few teams that sit up there, which we all know. The Roosters and the Storm look, pretty dominant. They've been for 20 years, haven't they? So that's not a surprise, but, you could probably throw 1 or 2 others in there, but there's a lot of us there that are sitting on 4 points now that, there's going to be a couple of sides that are on 4 that in 10 weeks' time, people are going to be thinking a lot different to what they were coming into this weekend. We've got to try and make sure we're one of them.
You actually go from last to 11th. Like, it's a pretty big jump.
It's unbelievable, yeah. That's the tightness, and then, all of us sides that are sitting there, Canterbury lost by 2, didn't they? And to Melbourne, they lost a close one to South Sydney. South Sydney again have been a winning club for the last sort of 8 years or so since Madge was there, and then Siebes and now Wayne's gone. They've been a winning club. They're getting the business done in the close games. They're obviously winning their good games, and they're getting it done in the tight games. And look where they sit on the ladder. They're one of those sides that's in that sort of elite sort of 3 or 4 teams at the moment. And the rest of us, there's not a great deal between us if we can keep our best players on the field and pinch our close games.
were your thoughts on Piercy today?
The way he competed was what we've seen Mitchell do over a long period of time. His number one attribute has always been his ability to compete well, and he led the team on the field as we would expect, and that's why he's captain of our club. His on-field leadership has always generally been to compete, and if he competes like that, we would expect the rest of the boys to follow.
Danny Levi said you simplified his game plan through the week. He showed the results of that today.
Yeah, look, I've been coaching Danny for a fair period now, and his game was at a time where, for Danny to become a good NRL player rather than, I suppose, a bit part player or a bench player, and we sort of looked at lots of things as all coaches do, and we just come up with maybe one or two little adjustments which may suit Danny. And tonight it certainly appeared to work for Danny. But again, it's good for tonight. But the key for all of the players, in particular the ones that have been here for the period of time at the Knights, is about what are they going to do next week, and what are they going to do the week after, and what are they going to do the week after. That's the real challenge. And again tonight I thought Lockie Fitz tonight was as good as he was against Cronulla, and Daniel Safiti's he's been reasonably consistent. The challenge for Denny is to bring a good solid game against the Warriors. And that's what Dave Clemmer's brought to the club, and generally Piercy and Timmy Glasby. They're good consistent performers, and that's what we've got to get across the park.
Midway through the second half, did you fear that they were coming to get you, that you had to sort of win it again? Oh,
look, I didn't think there was much in it, Gibbs. I thought, in that second period, there was a real arm wrestle, and there was a fair bit of fatigue in the game, and they got a 7-tackle set and got a try, but I didn't think there was a great deal in the contest at that stage. Obviously, we earned the contest with the way we started the first 20-25, which is our last two games have been quite poor, and we got the benefit of that at the back period of the game. And as a whole, apart from 20 minutes against Manly and last week, our defence has been good, and we kept Parramatta to 14, and so that's probably, a fair number of times we've kept sides to only a couple of tries this year, but it's about doing it each week.
There's been a bit of talk about Danny Levi maybe being allowed to, explore other options or whatever. I mean, can you clarify where that is at?
Oh, look, as we have these days in these clubs, we've got people in charge of lists and all that type of stuff. But Danny's in a situation of his career where he needs to make that stance. I'm a genuine first grade player, which he showed tonight. And when you do lose games, obviously, and we lose at the manner we did against the Gold Coast, there's so many different stories that come out from a losing footy team. And that's the reality of what happens when we put in a performance like that. But we've had Danny here for a long period now, and he was one of the the sort of 4 or 5 younger ones that we thought we should keep. And in an ideal world, I'd much rather Danny keep working hard on his game and play like he did tonight, because you can't win a grand final or be a grand final team unless you've got a large number of players that made their debut at your club. And the Storm and the Roosters the last 20 years are a classic example of that. That I know that neither of them are actually thick in local juniors as far as from their area, but they recruit very well at that end, and a lot of the players in their clubs start their careers there. And to be a successful club, when the Knights are at their most successful, you have players that come through your system and debut at your club, and those amount of games they play for you, and understand what your club's actually built on and about. That's how you get to where you want to get to. And so I would hope that Mitch Barnett and Lockie Fitzgibbon and Danny Levi, Daniel Safiti, those sort of handful of blokes, Sione, I'd like to hope that they could be a part of this club for a long time and be good, consistent players in a side that keeps getting better each year.
How was Sione?
Yeah, he's just good, Sione. He just had a bit of a minor bump, and obviously he's had that history a few years ago, but since then he's been good, and he goes through all the tests and got cleared, so that was good.
You're hoping that win can be a bit of a springboard and, get on a bit of a roll, start stringing some together now?
Well, it'd be nice, Rod. We're going to head to Auckland next week and to come up against Roger Tuivasa-Sheck and them blokes, So again, this is a side that was down on a few troops last week that were desperately unlucky against Melbourne, it's so close, you know. But you know, if we don't take what we took tonight to Auckland, that commitment and effort, you know, we certainly won't come away there with anything. But that's the challenge for us, and you know, tonight we should, you know, they should take a lot of joy out of what they got out of tonight, because last week was a tough week. But you know, we also got to understand that, you know, we've got to bring that next week if we're going to give ourselves a shout. But if you can be good enough to string 3 or 4 together, which is tough, you certainly move up the ladder rather quickly.